Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of The Eternal Grind from me, Keith, the Trastero Watabayashi for Numot Gaming. And today I'm going to be playing what is probably my favorite deck that I have. I call it Comix. I first got the deck from Notorious GHP, who was calling it Heart of Icaria. And that's because the main finishers of this deck are Heart of the Vault and Icaria the Liberator. I mean, you can't get any sweeter than that. That's why they're both foil. In fact, this deck is so sweet, the entire thing is foil. So I'm going to show off a little bit of my obsession with foils here, or just my swag. Either way, I'm super proud of my awesome life choice to foil this entire deck. So what is this deck? This deck is essentially two kinds of decks. It is a 3-faction good stuff deck in the similar vein of the Ski J's Moist Praxis, or how there's like Shadow Combre or like Shadow Praxis. So essentially is like the other decks, you take Time, and specifically Sandstorm Titan, and Time's ability to fix mana and draw cards like Find the Way, Temple Scribe, and Acolyte, and pair it with really powerful finishing units or spells, which in this case will be Heart of the Vault, Seraph, Icaria, and I guess Harshul, because Harshul is pretty important, and this deck can actually play Harshul as opposed to other versions that are 3-colored Time decks. That's the first kind of deck this is. The second is it's a control deck. It might not look like a control deck because you have so many units and it looks like you just want to curve out and play your big spell every turn, but this deck really invests a lot on each threat or answer it plays. You're trying to get the most value out of each spot on the curve, and you don't just want to tempo your spells out or your units out into removal and into sweepers, especially since you're playing the sweeper. So you really need to figure out how your powerful on-curve or slightly on-curve unit slash spell is going to control the flow of the game, so you can be in a favorable position to really bring the hammer down and win with Heart of the Vault or Icaria. Only one Icaria might seem strange, even though I keep mentioning it, but you have Rise to the Challenge and you have plenty of time to draw to it, so you'd be surprised how often you actually do get Icaria off in this deck. Another way to think of this deck is, if you're a Magic player, is it's like a tap-out control deck. So in tap-out control, what you want to do is play the most powerful thing you can do on your turn that is very hard for your opponent to interact with, but they need to interact with it because what you're doing is so powerful. But you can't respond to what they're doing on their turn because you have no mana up, you are tapped out. But the threats you've played or the cards you've played is so good that that's good enough. And this deck is really in that vein. I mean, Sandstorm Titan on 4 is probably the best thing you can do. Harshul on 5 is like the best thing you can do. Heart of the Vault on 6 is one of the best things you can do. Seraph on 3, Acolyte on 3. So this deck is really about super powerful value plays. And I think this color combination, although it's not very popular, might be the best in my opinion. You see more of the Elysian version these last few weeks. I think because Crystallize is so popular, it's kind of like a one-sided Harshul and like a finisher. And then you also have False Prince, Dawnwalker, and Cerso to kind of round out the Primal Splash with Wisdom to draw you cards, and that is really powerful. But you really, if that deck doesn't draw Cerso, it's in really bad shape, I feel, because False Prince can be answered so very easily. Crystallize is only really good if you're crashing in for the win or some massive amount of damage, so it's pretty limited in its use. It's kind of an offensive card, not a defensive card, and Harshul can be a little more flex in that. And again, outside of Cerso, none of your primal units are really pulling their weight the way your time cards are or your Praxis cards are. However, when you make that a Combre combination as opposed to an Elysian combination, Harshul is just incredible. I think it's the most powerful card in the game for a lot of reasons. That's a whole other video. Great Parliament, which is good on 4. It's good on 8. It's good. It's just a good top deck in general. Martial Ironthorn is an excellent card to kind of, just play on curve to have a huge threat. It can take over the game if it gets out of control. It can be a card you search for with Rise to the Challenge, which you don't do too much, but you could do it if you wanted to in a pinch. Another thing is you get to play Rise to the Challenge, and Rise to the Challenge is amazing. It lets you play these toolbox units like Iron Thorn, Reality Warden, Shatterglass Mage, and Mystic and Icaria. So the fact that you get access to this is also fantastic. And then finally, Torch. Torch is probably the best card right now, I think, in Eternal. It kind of fluctuates depending on the meta on the ladder. Sometimes Torch is not very exciting, but I think other times, like right now, it's the best card. I mean, with so much Argent Port around and so much Recano and these kind of low-to-the-ground, small mid-range decks that top out at 5, being able to efficiently answer early threats while also having the flexibility to swing combat your way against larger units or hit your opponent in the face just makes it such an amazing card with so much playability, and I think it's great. So one of the big draws for playing this deck is you get to play Torch. I mean, just the fact that you are a Praxis deck that has Torch in the beginning, Titan in the middle, and Heart at the end, with the flexibility of Vanquish, Healer, Seraph, Harsh Rule, and Icaria to, specifically answer certain situations, it's just amazing. On top of that, I'm splashing 1 Protect and 1 Stand Together. Stand Together isn't that good right now because you're seeing a little less control. You're not really seeing Chalice as much the last week or so. So Protect a little bit better, but I think one of each has proven to be pretty great. If nothing else, Stand Together is a great combat trick. So against Argent Port, Stand Together can do a lot of work. It can also be good against some of the relic weapons you see in Armory. Taking like a Seraph out of range of a Rune Hammer every now and then is a big deal. So I'm happy with the 1-1 split, but we'll see how the games go. Might not keep it going forward. So that's it for the deck tech. We're going to go ahead and jump right into our games. I really wanted to make this video when I was at Diamond 1, but after being 1 win away from Diamond, it's been back and forth because isn't that just the way ladder goes? I mean, I was having a smooth run. I'd won like 7 in a row, and I was at 98 points. And then since then, it's been win 2, lose 3, win 3, lose 1, that kind of thing. So anyway, here we are. This hand on the draw is fine. I'm going to go ahead and keep it. We have early plays with Find the Way, Desert Seek, and Temple Scribe, with a big payoff in Harsh Rule. So this game is going to be what I call a Harsh Rule game. You might hear me say things like that during this video. I'll look at the opening hand and say, oh, this is a Harsh Rule game, or this is a Seraph game, or this is a Sandstorm Titan game. Because it really does depend how... Ooh, this is kind of interesting. That was a misclick. Oh, well. I'm having problems with my mouse, so the misclick is a real thing. But it's okay. Looks like we're playing against some kind of aggro deck, so I think between Marshall and Temple Scribe, we'll get to Harsh Rule, and then we can come back from there. So we want to be on 5 mana on 5, not depleted. So if we get... because the issue is, what are we going to do on turn 2? We can leave up Desert Marshal if we think we're really going to be in trouble. Or we can just plan on playing Find the Way, which means we should probably get a Fire. Because then we can play this into Find the Way and then play Fire. It's unlikely we're really going to need to worry about having multiple fire sources. Since Heart of Icaria costs 6, so I think we'll get a Time Sigil just to leave open the possibility that we can go like Temple Scribe on 3 or something, and not get behind in mana. Really would have liked to play the Banner there. That was kind of a bummer, but oh well. So our opponent didn't play anything, so that's pretty good for us. So now we will play the Banner. And now we can play this on 3 and still have a power to play on 4. So that's good. Our opponent missing there is pretty good for us. So let's go ahead and do this, and we will play this. It's kind of tempting to play Find the Way as well, which does also draw a card, but I think having the blocker is a big deal. And we can always draw a Torch. And also, you know, we like I said, we want to get to 5, so drawing undepleted power isn't a terrible thing. So we don't have strong incentive to play the Find the Way over the unit with card draw. And now we can go ahead and do both, and that's good. Kind of tempting to play both of these. Maybe get our opponent to overextend into a harsh rule. Seems unlikely. We are going to harsh rule on 5. I'll probably maybe play this on 6. Let's see here. No, probably not. We'll just play another Find the Way. Make sure we get all the mana we need. So we're going to take a few beats here, but we're going to get some of the life back, and our opponent's having a tough power draw, so harsh rule is going to be really, really good for us. And can't really complain about that. And that's really good to know it's there. So now we have to be careful of all this depleted power. We're definitely going to harsh rule this turn. We get a 3 for 1. And then I guess we have the option of going hard on 6. Or we can play Temple Scribe and start playing these depleted powers. Probably not, though. I guess we'll just go Heart of the Vault on 6. Because that's just great. And then we can start playing these depleted powers with Mystic Ascendant, since we have all the mana we need. Again, though, I mean, we got a little lucky with our opponent having such a slow draw that we were never, ever under any real threat. I don't know how much it would have mattered, given the fact that we still have a Desert Marshal and Temple Scribe in our hand. So it's not like we didn't have things to do. It's just in situations like that where your opponent just lets you, you know, it's easy for you to just go straight up to your big plays and you hit your big plays. So I will take it. I don't know if anybody else is having this problem with like selection cards in their hands, but I feel like the hands are really sticky. Like it's hard to separate some of your things. I've tried various things with my mouse to make it so it's easier, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just bad at technology. We'll see how the rest of these games go. I've been playing a lot against the, the new Argent port decks, which I'm pretty much split. I think it's like 55-45, something like that. Because one of the reasons why I like this deck right now is it is very good against mid-range. You have access to Vanquish. You have Harsh Rule, which is great against mid-range. You have a lot of card draw, a lot of value. This is an easy mulligan. It's a 1-power hand. If this was undepleted, we'd probably still mulligan, because if all we have is like Torch into nothing, and then we have to wait till turn 6. So that's a little too draw dependent. But you can keep one-landers with this deck. It's not impossible. And so with this deck being good against mid-range, I like it against the Argent port decks, but it all just comes down to Tavrod. Like, Tavrod is so good. If that guy gets to attack even once, it's really hard to come back. But this deck has, 4 silences with Desert Marshal, and it has 2 Vanquish, as well as 4 Harsh Rules. So you have a lot of ways to immediately interact with Tavrod. Plus you have your own powerful units that are naturally bigger than most of the Argent port units, except for Tavrod. So I'm pretty happy with the matchup. Although it can be really tough. No, cancel. So you can see my mouse is kind of sticky, so this might be a kind of awkward card selection. I got to make sure I take my time with my plays, which is not the way I like to do. I'm a very fast player. Always my whole life been a fast card player. I like to think about all the 5 actions I want to do in a turn and then do all 5 of them as quickly as possible, which has gotten me into a lot of trouble over the years, let me tell you. It looks really cool when you do the right thing and you win. It looks really bad when you do the wrong thing and you lose. So this looks like Armory. So Vanquish is going to be big here. Standing is going to be big here. Torch is okay. We didn't come up. It doesn't look like we're facing a Sword of Ikaria yet, so it's not great, but we'll hold on to it. What we really want in this matchup is Heart of the Vault and access to Ikaria. Those are like the best cards in this matchup. Like Titan's not great, just because of things like Vanquish, Slay. Sometimes they run Annihilate. Excuse me. You know, these little units that are really good against other aggro, like other mid range or aggro strategies, don't do a lot against Armory. So at least we're hitting mana, so that's good. So when the fireworks start to come, we'll be able to play almost whatever we draw because we'll be at 6 mana with Perfect Influence. But we need to get there first. Like these two torches and this Combray Healer are pretty dead in this matchup. So we're basically only playing with a 4-card hand. Well, that's not terrible. No. Let me see here. What is our opponent going to do next turn? We could play the Time Sigil and play Heart of the Vault. And hit for 2 and attack with both. And draw the card. That essentially draw 2 cards with the Warp. Or we could play both the Find the Ways and sit back for a turn. And then next turn we can Heart of the Vault and Torch the Deadly Maiden. I think I like that a little more. Even though we're not drawing cards off the top as efficiently as we would be with playing Heart of the Vault, we still get to filter our deck a little bit, and there's no real need. Well, let's see. I do like doing 2 damage here and swinging for 4 because there's no chance that they would block. I don't think so though. I think the life totals are high enough that trying to force to the board with Heart of the Vault and then trying to force some 4 damage through is not really where we want to be. And it looks like we're facing a Torch here. It doesn't really matter what we get. So we'll get Justice. So we will get Justice, which is kind of fun to say. We could leave up Stand Together, actually. That's not bad. Let's do that. Ooh, a 0-cost Torch. I mean, having a 3/6 with Aegis is pretty big game. So even though we can't block this turn, we're going to get some value out of that Stand Together. And there's no clear sense of when we're going to be able to play it later, since we're going to be playing like a 6-drop spell. So might as well do it now while it affects 2 units and blocks a removal spell. Like basically we're playing it when it matters, which is a big deal. I don't mind getting that reduced. Seems good. There we go. And then let's go. So no pause. So it looks like our opponent doesn't have much. So we have lethal. Our opponent almost certainly is going to have some kind of removal for this. If they don't, that's a really bad drop. But they have 7 cards in hand. I mean, they have to have removal or threats. If they have threats and we get to go Vanquish Ikaria, that's just insane. But yeah, that seems much more likely. Still have lethal because we have Ikaria and Torch next turn. That's not going to do anything. Yeah, I think that's pretty much game, man. You take 8, you take 11. I guess we just Torch you. So that way we get to keep our Aegis. And hit for 3, which is nice. And we'll take this, and we won't play it because we do have Mystic Ascendant in our deck. So our opponent needs a decent amount of answers here, and they have to get through 2 Aegis. There we go. Stand Together for the win. Hey, I knew you'd do well, buddy. Oh, I didn't get to say so. Sorry. That's a good start. Good start. That was an awkward draw from our opponent. We didn't face any major threats, but it does happen. I mean, it's a 3-color deck that's trying to go for synergies, just kind of like we are. Although we're more power-based than we are like synergy, like power as opposed to synergy, which is where you really want to be in Eternal. Synergy decks in Eternal are very difficult to win with consistently. You might go on some good runs, but consistently it's very difficult because of the deck size. What's interesting about that is that's exactly what the developers said they want to do with the game. It's interesting that way early on, like almost a year ago, I remember reading that Scarlatch said, or someone in that group said that they like the 75 card deck size because they want games to play out differently, even from the point of view of the person playing the deck. So even if you play a deck based around synergy, they want you to have the chance to play the deck very differently from that synergy. So keep that in mind whenever you are. This is an easy mulligan. Any hand with 2 power, it's almost always correct to mulligan. Like I would say 95% of the time, because you will always get at least 2 power back. So the only thing you have to think about is, will I draw a better 5 cards to interact with 2 power? That's the only consideration when it comes to mulligan. And with this hand, the answer is yes. It's close though. I mean, well, maybe we keep because we're on the draw and we have Temple Scribe. Nah, we're just gonna mulligan. I almost talked myself into it, but we sadly drew into a worse hand, but I still think mulliganing was the right decision. Oh my god. So anyway, keep that in mind when you're thinking about synergy-based strategies, that the game is designed to not have synergistic decks or synergy-based decks be consistent outside, of a few games in a row. That's why for so long, and even now, the meta really is just about power over synergy, raw power over anything else. And this is why a 3-color deck like this, or a three-color deck, I do think for the entire run of Eternal's existence, however long that is, everyone's going to be using Magic the Gathering terms. So even with a 3-color deck like this, you really want to focus on power over synergy. So I think we're playing against clock roaches. Wow, I haven't played against this in a while. We do okay against it. This draw's a little slow. If we had like a Sear-Off, that'd be really good, or some threat we could be attacking with. Right now, we're going to be leaning pretty heavily on Harsh Rule, which is not always where you want to be at in this matchup because they generate so much echo value. And if luckily we haven't seen a crown yet, so we don't have to worry too much about Aegis because nothing with echo has Aegis that I can think of right now. We'll play a Titan, see what happens. And we'll see how good these Harsh Rules can be. These are going to determine the game, these 2 Harsh Rules. This is going to be a Harsh Rule game. Oh, too bad. Could have waited a turn. It's alright, though. It's not like it really would have mattered like if we'd saved the Titan there because it doesn't have Overwhelm. And it would have been really easy for our opponent to just chump block with all the things that they had. So better to get the removal spell out of their hand on a unit that is like okay in this matchup. Something that's really good in this matchup is Icaria. Well, Icaria is good pretty much all the time, but Heart of the Vault, Ironthorn's good because his ultimate is relevant. Sear-Off is good because her ultimate is relevant, or her pay 8 mana ability is relevant. Here we go. Do I want to torch that? Probably not. Ooh, a healer is a very good draw, actually. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. This is going to be a long game because we are going to be playing both these Harsh Rules and see how that goes. So we're going to be sitting back defensively for a long time. And our opponent's going to get some giant clock roaches. But without Crown, they just get destroyed by Harsh Rule. So, but man, I haven't played against the Shadow Roach deck in a while. So, kind of interesting to see how it holds up these days. I am gonna torch that. I really do want to force our opponent to play to the board as much as possible, since we don't have any real threats and we have nothing we're building to other than Harsh Rule. So we want to try to make Harsh Rule as good as possible And the best way to do that is to try to get our opponent to overcommit into a harsh rulable board. So do we think our opponent's going to fall for the second one? No, I think we're fine. I think if our opponent just attacks with one cockroach and we get to torch it and block, that's good enough for now. Whoops. I mean, we're too... Oh, no, I wanted to block. Stupid mouse. Not exactly what I had in mind, but... Oh, well. Let's really try to make it seem like this was a huge screw-up, which it was. But maybe we get them to still commit to the board. Play one more. Play one more. No, I guess not. I guess not. Well, now we're just going to do it. Ooh, an iron. Okay. Alright, alright. I think we'll just take the 3. Yeah, that's fine. Play the second one. Play another one. Ugh. Our opponent's a very good clock roaches player. They are really taking their time. Which is the way to do it, by the way. Sure. Let's do that. Okay, what do we want to do here? We want to chump block the 7/7, and I guess we take 3 and go to 11. I guess I can live with that. Could just play the Seraph, though. Because we could play Seraph and then see if our opponent overcommits, and if they still want to play... I guess we can do that. We'll play Seraph and put our opponent in a position where, assuming they don't have a removal spell, it doesn't even matter because we have Protect, they either have to commit more units to the harsh rule we have, or let Seraph kind of go, you know, run amok, basically. I think that is acceptable. We are going to go for the Protect here. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It doesn't look like we're going to get that extra clock roach going from our opponent, which is too bad. Well, they might play it. Maybe they think that me playing Seraph and trying to protect it means I don't have it, but I do. Or we could just play the Reality Warden, because I'm pretty sure there's one roach left. That's an 8/8, and this dude doesn't block 8/8s. It does block 7/7. So we could play you. My opponent played 2 Permafrost. Then we could silence 1 and chump. We could block here. Oh, that just seems bad. Nah, we're just going to harsh rule. Ugh, dirty. That would have been good. That would have been good. I don't think we're going to win this game. We're getting outvalued pretty hard. Gonna need that 3rd harsh rule. Props to our opponent for really playing in such a way that makes it hard for us to play around one roach at a time, since we don't have a lot of spot removal in this deck, and we didn't draw a lot of our bigger units. I mean, we've drawn no hearts, no rise to the challenge. I suppose Reality Warden would have been the better play, but I don't think it would have played out much differently, because we would have blocked the 7/7. So is there any way we do not... I mean, we can chump block both and not die next turn and try to get the harsh rule. I guess we can do that, but I'm not in love with that play. I think it's the only play we have. And we're dead to any removal spell, so there's also that. So we have one draw. Our opponent really played this cautiously, where it's like, that happened to be good against me, but, you know, if I was playing a different deck that drew more threats, they would have been in bad shape. But, you know, that's the nature of playing a deck that has a lot of different strategies, is that, you know, if you're not lining up the way you want to, it can be really difficult. So, like in that game, I think our opponent identified very early that we were going to lean heavily on harsh rule or removal, and they played around it. Whereas if we were able to play more threats out in a curve-like fashion, like go Seraph in a Titan, things like that, they might have committed to the board more, and then that would have made our harsh rules more effective. But I think both me and my opponent knew that harsh rule was going to be a very deciding factor to that game, and they successfully played around it. And our draw didn't give us much opportunity to develop a different strategy, so we had to play into harsh rule. And props to our opponent for making sure that wasn't going to be a winning strategy. And then we did throw away a torch that one turn, but I don't think it would have mattered. We didn't draw enough to follow up that saved me. Like, we had no other. We could have torched an iron at one point, but I don't even think that would have mattered again. And it was all about the harsh rules that game, and our opponent successfully played around them. Do I want to trade? I guess we have a Vanquish for any kind of champion of chaos. So yeah, sure, why not? We also have a Vanquish for that new dragon whose name I forget. So we'll preserve our life total a little bit. Sky Crag. Alright, okie dokie. Ooh, well, that's a good draw. Oh, yes. Yes. I love you, Praxis. I love you, Torch. I love Comix. I love this deck. Which is what I call this deck, Comix. I love the fact that I have access to Desert Marshal and Torch in the early game. That just feels unfair most of the time. Ugh, yes. Desert Marshal, you are so good. Sensari Brigade. Or Brigand. That's my Sky Crag tech. Wait a minute here. Torch is good. Not exactly what I'm looking for. I'd like to find a threat of some sort. Well, at least that's something. Torch is just so good against Sky Crag, so having Torch is pretty phenomenal. I don't know why. I really apologize for the mouse issue. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time selecting my cards right now. Sure. We will remove you. I guess I kind of want to play Reality Warden. Do I have better targets for Torch in this matchup? I guess there's like Champion of Fury, but I think I'm going to use Vanquish while I can. That's a little greedy with the removal. But the fact that our opponent played the Scepter before they wanted to attack tells me they don't have a lot of action in their hand. So I really want to force the issue, especially since I drew a harsh rule. Oh, that's not bad. I guess we will do nothing. Yeah, this looks like a harsh rule coming up here. Tough to say what that last card is, but I'm still going to harsh rule and go for the 2-for-1. Like, I don't want to take 6. I don't want to give them 2 more war cries, or 3 more war cries actually. I want to try to draw to Icaria, which we did do, so that worked out. Icaria is, I feel, unbeatable for Skycrag. Like, they have to have a lot of action. And I mean, even if they clearly have the obliterate and they're gonna kill it, but even then, like, taking away your best two of your burn spells to get rid of one of my units that already did 5 damage and Warcry for 5. I mean, that just seems ridiculous to me. Like, how are you possibly gonna beat that? We're just gonna keep going. I mean, we win this race. We're at 26 to our opponent's 13, so they have to do something. And the fact that our last card is Protect just is absurd. So I think we're pretty good here. And eventually, we will draw something that is not power. But, you know, Icaria is a win condition. We should be able to win with Icaria, no problem. If Icaria goes unanswered, which so far is happening. Sure. Maybe we're not going to draw anything outside of power. Is there any reason to play one of these? I don't think so. Couldn't beat the Icaria. Legendary for a reason. First among the Valkyrie. Oh yeah. That was sweet. It always feels good when you win a game with Icaria. Almost like no matter what else happens, if you win with Icaria, you have won. Like some that should be like an achievement. Win with Icaria. That was sweet. Not much our opponent could do there. I mean, our removal lined up so well, and we were able to stick one of our major threats. So that was kind of what you want to do with this deck. Still waiting to see where all the Argent port decks are. I was playing against a bunch of them earlier today. Hey, P. Chapin. Yeah, this hand's good. I wish it had like some removal, but because on the draw, all of these cards are pretty weak. On the play, this hand would be much better. But we could mulligan into much worse hands, and we have a turn 1 Seek Power into a turn 2 Scribe into a turn 3 Acolyte, so that's good enough. If we're up against aggro, we're in bad shape. This is kind of interesting. I do sort of want to play this, but I also really want to play the Seek Power. In case I draw a 4-drop. But if I play the Time Sigil, because I want to play him on 2, I'm going to have to search for time. I guess that's fine. I mean, I have Icaria, and I do want to get 3 fire, but you know, it's turn 1, and we have plenty of plays with our Combre colors that we don't have to worry about our Ricano colors too much. That's not very nice. Well, that was not very nice at all. Some kind of Argent port control deck. Sure, why not? Right now, I don't think he would know that we're playing with fire, which is kind of a funny way to say it, like a funny sentence. Because I don't think the non-options show up. So we're going to go ahead and keep making it seem like we're on some kind of Combre control. And now we have our 3 fire, which is great. Which is great. Well, that's not very nice. That's a decent threat. Wow, getting rid of that harsh rule was pretty good. Yeah, let's play you. Let's see what we get. That's not bad. It's not great. Could use that harsh rule. How are we going to win this game? I guess Desert Marshal is our best draw. That seems pretty good. Oh man, Patrick Chapin's coming at us with the Minotaurs. Yeah, I guess Desert Marshal is our best draw here. In the meantime, this guy is really doing a number on us. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Whew. I hate when real life gets in the way of my gaming videos. And we will hold back. Well, we might die to this vigilante, since we can't draw Torch or Marshal or another Harsh Rule. Ow. Ugh, yeah. Need that Harsh Rule. Did not get it. That is not good. What are we going to do here? I think we're dead. Like, if we had a Harsh Rule, we'd win the game. But that got sabotaged. That was very unexpected. If we had a Torch, we'd win this game. Or Desert Marshal. Didn't draw any of those. So how are we going to win? I think, again, we have to win with Icaria. But Icaria is going to get wrecked because she's going to have to block the Vigilante. Tavrod is a major problem as well. If I play the Mystic Ascendant, am I going to block with it? Probably not. I have 2 chump blockers, so I can let Tavrod attack. It's going to be really unfortunate if he has an answer to the Mystic or draws an answer with Tavrod, but it's our best possible play, so here we go. Well, now it's sort of Harsh Rule or bust. Really wanted Desert Marshal this game, though. That really would have been pretty great. Double miss? Is there any justice? No. Yeah, this deck looks like it was built with Tavrod in mind, so the thought of this guy whiffing, of Tavrod whiffing, seems unlikely. 2 of those cards are either a unit and a weapon, so I think we're okay to go ahead and kill this. And no, don't do that. We'll just have you chump there. We can't block you. Need the Harsh Rule. It's not exactly what we're looking for. Is there any way we do not die? Yes. That's actually not bad. We can play Reality Warden and leave up the Marshal. I think that's our best play. And see if we get there. I don't know, though. I don't know what Tavrod drew. It could be a serious problem here. Yeah, that's pretty good. Too bad. We almost did it. We almost did it. Like, almost. Really needed a Torch that game. It's not too often that we lose to a unit with 1 health. But we did. Oh well, wasn't meant to be. After my long speech about synergy, we just lost to a synergy-based deck because our 1-for-1 powerful cards did not get there. That was a very timely sabotage. Plus, we drew the wrong part of our deck. But that's okay. We keep going. This hand is very interesting. So if we keep this hand, this is a game that's going to center around Harsh Rule. And then we're going to try to play Heart of the Vault after the Harsh Rule. So that would mean we'd have to spend turns 1 through 4 looking for Fire so we can play Heart. But we have the early interaction. We're going to try it. This is a more controlling hand. This is where this deck really plays like a control deck. And from a control standpoint, we have interaction, removal, and sweeper. And then win condition. So this hand is worth trying. It could be a disaster. But the fact that we have 3 mana right away in Combre means we can play things like Acolyte, Find the Way, Combre Healer, Seraph. So we don't really have any bad top decks with this hand, outside of things like extra Heart of the Vaults, Anticaria, or Torch. But since we just drew a Firepower, even Torch is good now. Sure. Seek Power. Yeah, okay. Seek Power is not bad. Turns 1 through 4, we wanted to look for fire, and we got 2 fire sources, so not bad. Unfortunately, it looks like our opponent's playing Chalice or some kind of similar control deck, and our early interaction is not as good as we hoped it would be. Another Harsh Rule. I mean, Harsh Rule is good against Chalice. So if that is indeed what we're up against, I can't complain about having 2 of them. But I never like being stuck with a hand that is mostly answers and no threats. I mean, like a Sandstorm Titan would be a really good draw. Oh well. I mean, it's great that we were able to play Heart on 6, but it's unfortunate that our opponents also had plenty of time to set up. I mean, this was a bad keep against Chalice. Like, if we knew we were playing against Chalice, this would not be a keepable hand because you really want to get on the board and force them to choose between, like, setting up what they're doing and assembling their card draw. But we weren't able to do that. And now we're in a really bad spot because we could play Heart of the Vault just as a great, 6/6 draw a card, but there's a good chance, since our opponent didn't play many early things either, that they have removal. And excuse me, now that it's so late in the game, it's very reasonable that they go like Vanquish and Chalice, and then we're way behind. I would almost rather Harsh Rule here just to prevent the Chalice. But I don't know if that's as good as drawing a card. I guess I'd rather draw a card and force our opponent to use some removal. But we need to find a little more action, and we need to force our opponent to do a little more than just, draw 2 cards a turn and have easy targets for removal. All right, well, that's very interesting. I assume our opponent has a Island's Choice. I guess it's fine if they use an Island's Choice here. That means that our Harsh Rule is more likely to go through. But this is a hard position to be in to win against Chalice. I don't want to mince words. This is a pure grindy game at this point, and nothing grinds better than Chalice. So it's going to be a tough one. It's not impossible, but it's going to be pretty tough. Happy to make that trade. A Seraph with no game text isn't doing anything against this board. Kind of surprising our opponent offered that trade. Three Harsh Rules. Ugh, that's really not where we want to be right now. Really want to draw more mana. I guess we'll just go for the Vanquish here. So our opponent must have another Desert Marshal. That's the only thing that makes sense. Or they have a Wisdom. Okay. That's fine. So the question is now, do we want to play the Seraph? Seraph can be a pretty decent win condition against Chalice. We're really far away from that, but with 3 Harsh Rules, there's a good chance that we get there. And especially since this Seraph costs 1, all we have to do is get to 9 mana to activate her. So I think it's worth holding back and leaning more on Harsh Rule until then. I mean, we kind of have to. That's what our hand is Harsh Rule and not much else. So if we want to win this game, we're going to have to make use of all 3 of those Harsh Rules, or at least 2 of them. That's getting, as much value as we can out of the cards in our hand, which we really need to do. This deck is really dependent on getting the most value out of your draw and your mana. So any plan for victory is going to need to include Harsh Rule, at least 2 copies, I think, given our opponent's draw. And also given our draw. Mostly our draw. Tempting to silence this, actually. Nah, probably not. Really want to draw more mana. I want to have the option to think about Seraph in the near future as opposed to whenever we draw mana and whenever it's opportune. Ooh, Temple Scribe is a good draw. That I do like. That is also a good draw. Our opponent obviously also has their own Harsh Rules, so going a little wide here and forcing them to play a Harsh Rule is not a bad thing. If they really feel like they need to. Right now, they don't really need to. Sure. Yeah, this is one grindy game. Is there any way to remove that Lumen Defender? Probably not. So I think we'll just double block. Sure. Yeah, I just don't see us really winning this game this way, but don't have a lot of options. Our opponent's being very conservative with their removal, so trying to force the issue I think is okay for us at this point. Since we don't have much else to do. That was a nice free kill with the Desert Marshal. Maybe our opponent's having a hard time finding units. Like maybe their hand is like similar to ours with a bunch of Harsh Rules and like Channel the Tempest or something. But I have to think if they had Channel the Tempest, they would play it. All right, well that's to be expected. So this game is going to be nothing but the battle of Harsh Rules. And see, now we're in a position where we really don't want to be, where you have nothing in your hand but Harsh Rules. But we have a lot of life, and we still have, Icaria, Sandstorm Titans, more hearts. I mean, we have a lot of plays here, so I'm not too worried. Like, this is going to be a perfect time to Harsh Rule with our pseudo 2-for-1. Even though it's really like a 1-for-1 since they draw a card with the chalice, but this is a much better position for our opponent than for us because they essentially are drawing 2 cards a turn while playing 1 threat a turn. Seek power, sure. I think I'm gonna hold this one in case we draw. No, I'll probably play it. Like, we could also draw another Seraph. We will put that on the top, because that's not a bad one. And then, yeah, we're probably going to have to Harsh Rule, followed by the next Seraph with 11 mana. But we're pretty far behind. Ouch. Well, I guess our opponent has to channel the Tempest, and we are done. That being the case, I guess we'll just roll the dice with Seraph and see if we gain some life. Might get like a Lumen Defender. Yeah, almost certainly our opponent has another Channel of the Tempest to finish us off, but that is the best play right now. It just took too long to draw anything relevant. And our opponent, we're playing against someone, someone in Masters, so it's not like they're going to play into Harsh Rule very easily. Diogo. Diogo would have been good. Can we gain some life? Not exactly. So both our Seraph activations gave us 0 attack units. Can't say those were the best Seraph activations I ever had. Maybe we can deck our opponent. Doesn't seem likely. I challenge anyone who's ever played Eternal that is to win a game by decking their opponent. It's like impossible. Unless your opponent's playing Vodacon and they deck themselves. And even then, you didn't really deck them, did you? They decked themselves. And this is where it just gets ridiculous. Like, we can Harsh Rule this board, but it doesn't even matter. I mean, our opponent has a huge hand. And, that's just that. Could play Diogo and activate. We could play Diogo and activate him. And then double block and take 4 and go to 1. Then everything has charge. I guess we might as well. I mean, we're dead to anything, and our opponent has a huge hand. Like, even if we Harsh Rule, what does it matter, right? So we might as well just use his ability. Because, like, one way we could win is our opponent, for some reason, somehow, gets into a position where they can't block, and we rip, like, multiple units in a row with charge. Seems highly unlikely, though. I would expect a Channel of the Tempest to be coming any moment. I'm not going to concede, though. I'm going to make our opponent do it. This is a video for Numot. We don't concede games during our videos, even though we have no way to win. Oh, well. I mean, I don't know if I'd say it was an honorable fight, dude. You're playing Chalice. And I kept a hand that was good against anything but Chalice, basically. So I don't know if I'd call it an honorable fight. But we both got to do stuff. Another 2-mana hand that there's no real incentive to keep, so we're going to get rid of it. This hand is much better. Any hand with Torch, much better. I still, even though I'm 3-3 right now, I have no regrets about completely foiling out this deck, because this deck is awesomely fun to play. Even when I lose, I'm just playing sweet cards, and they're shiny sweet cards. Why would you not want to play that? I absolutely do not believe in holding up your torch for something better. I mean, seriously, just kill it. Kill whatever you can with torch. It costs 1 mana, and it can get so much worse for you if you wait. Tempting to silence this. Well, we're in bad shape against the Champion of Chaos, since we did torch a Oni Ronin, and we drew another power, which was not a good draw. Let's see. We have no Harsh Rule. We don't know what we're drawing to. Probably just going to play Acolyte next turn. So that being said, we're going to be aggressive with our interaction. We're flooded. So we need to buy as many turns as possible to draw into our action spells. So we need to really aggressively protect our life total. And hopefully we draw out of this. Combra Healer is a good draw. That's a good one. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. No, we want you. I choose you, Combra Healer. This way, too, we can play both of these next turn, draw a couple cards. Impending Doom, that's not the worst. Ooh, that was a good draw. How much do I care? I guess, like I said, we're flooded. I mean, we have basically three, all this power in our hand. We need to force our opponent to have something because we have nothing. But the longer the game goes, the better it is for us. But forcing our opponent to have answers and spend their mana on removal instead of threats is good for our long-term game plan. So like right now, let's get we'll get a fire sigil since we have less fire sources than we do time sources. Let's gain a life and draw a card. So we're looking for Vanquish, even a Harsh Rule, another Titan. Desert Marshal would be good. Second Combra Healer. But you can see where using our removal aggressively, we've bought ourselves a lot of time. We bought ourselves time to draw into our business. Now that we actually can try to make a comeback, which I think we're on good pace to do, honestly. This is a serious threat, though, so we need to be careful. We need a third time, which we are going to play, since I don't think I'm going to spend 4 mana this turn. I guess I could just draw this if I really wanted to and gain a life. That seems good. It's not great. It's not as great as warping it out, which would be the best thing we could do, but, not the end of the world. And now we're actually starting to race our opponent a little bit because, they're going to be taking damage from their Impending Doom. And, oh, that sucks. Ow. Ow. Ooh, Mystic. It doesn't really matter, though. We're not going to play Mystic. We're playing you. So we're dead to a few things. We are going to try to put ourselves in a good board position. Our opponent's at 12. We have 6, 7, 8, 9. So we need like Titan, Vanquish, Harsh Rule, Healer. We need a lot of things. Or we're just dead. Well, that wasn't a bad game. I didn't really bother to play around Bandit Queen. If we had one more blocker, we could have chump blocked. And then we wouldn't have died there. But again, we were a little flooded against Queen. I mean, we went all the way to turn 7 against Queen. And, they had it. And I don't feel too bad about that. Normally, you play games like that, you're going to come out ahead. The real thing with that game was they had the Annihilate. They had Annihilate and Impending Doom, which are both mid-range, really good mid-range spells. And with the added damage from Queen, which did 5 damage to us, that was too much. But we had a lot of outs. I mean, we could have drawn Torch to deal with Queen. We could have drawn another Desert Marshal. I mean, we had a lot of outs. We just didn't get there. And I feel like, I don't want to make it seem like this deck is all about, well, if you draw it, you get there and blah, 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 because I keep saying that. But you have a lot of ways to play these games. Like, we could have held the Torch or held the Desert Marshal and try to use them for the bigger threats that our opponent presented later in the game. And, instead of coming back from our draw, we could try to come back from our opponent's early units. But I always like to choose to try to draw, basically play a longer game where you have more time to draw better cards. But if we done it the other way, it would have played very differently, and we might have won. Probably not likely, because the Impending Doom could have come down as like a 6/6, a 7/7. The Bandit Queen could have come down as like a 4/3 or something. So I think we played it as best we could. But that wasn't the only way to play it, and that might not have even been the right way to play it. But it's interesting, it's not just a matter of how powerful your cards are. It's like what is the path you want to take to utilize the most value out of your cards. And the thing about this deck is you have a lot of options. Except in this game where we are severely choked on influence. But we're playing a 3-color deck or a 3-faction deck, so this will happen. Luckily, we have 3 Justice and Harsh Rule, so we can come back from a lot of board states. Unfortunately, we are in a very similar position against our other Chalice opponent, where all we have is Harsh Rule. And, if our opponent successfully plays around Harsh Rule, then we are in bad shape. Go ahead. So what do we need to happen here? We need Heart of the Vault. Icaria would be good since we've drawn so many Rakano colors. Shatterglass Mage would be alright. Sure. I'm going to go ahead and Harsh Rule this. It's a 2-for-1, sort of, since they got value off of this. I guess it's really a 1-for-1, but I don't want our opponent to have a Chalice target next turn. Yep, that's fine. It's not great, but it's better than them playing the Lumen Defender and holding on to that. I think I will just play Seraph. Really need our opponent to miss a couple draws, I have to say. We're going to go ahead and silence this. The only other unit we'd want to silence would be like Kothon, but we have Harsh Rules, so at least this way we protect our life total and get some use out of our Desert Marshal. Because Desert Marshal, oh, whoops, there was that. Oh, yeah, I'm too busy talking. For some reason, I was thinking that would be enough. It doesn't matter. This video is going to be a lesson in making play mistakes and not worrying about them. Yeah. Harsh Rule is pretty bad here. Our opponent's not really playing around Harsh Rule, even though we already played one. So we are going to try to get them to play into more. We need like one really good Harsh Rule, and then we need Heart of the Vault and our second Seraph to try to take us all the way home. But it's going to be tough because we're not drawing mana. Yeah, that Channel of the Tempest probably seals the deal. Just letting Chalice, basically letting Chalice go unchallenged on your turn is really bad because they can do so many things on their turn. You really want to force them to have to react to you as well as choose like doing their own proactive thing. So in a situation like this where it's like you do nothing and they can do whatever they want and you try to answer with a big card like Harsh Rule, it's really bad. But unfortunately, this is the second time where our draw is just not really giving us that much to do here. A second Harsh Rule is not bad. I guess it's sort of a 2-for-1. We're going to have 6 cards in their hand. The problem is we don't have a really good follow-up. I really don't want to... I guess it's better to play the Harsh Rule now because our opponent also has Harsh Rule. So if we start to draw mana and start playing out our units, our opponent can Harsh Rule us, which makes it harder for them to commit to the board. So while we can kill 2 of our opponent's units to 1 of ours, we might as well Harsh Rule. Even though, again, it's not really where you want to be. And our opponent's just got total free reign. At least we get some real value for this next one. Never mana. Never mana. Well, now we just can't win. I don't think we can. The fact that we have to play that there, and our opponent has Chalice up, and with 11 mana, it's not likely we're ever coming back here. If we'd been able to, stick a Titan or Heart of the Vault, that would have been something. But now our opponent's going to be drawing 2 cards every turn with plenty of mana to do everything, and we're still struggling to get to 6 mana. That's really bad. And we did use 3 harsh rules, so that's pretty bad. Torch and another heart. Ugh. Whoa, this is just really rough session of threats and answers not lining up the way we want. I'm just going to torch this. Our opponent is playing everything almost as fast as they can to the board, so we're just going to do our best to answer it. But yeah, this is where we're at here. Well, at this point, it feels like we're just not meant to beat Chalice tonight. Even though I don't have a bad record against Chalice with this deck. Ugh, gross. Gross. Getting destroyed here. Well, let's see if we can salvage a 5-5 here and at least be no worse off than when we started. Going first. So we get to play Find the Way on 2, Temple Scribe on 3, and then I guess we could Find the Way on 4, and then Harsh Rule on 5. I guess that's fine. If we were on the draw and going second, I would almost certainly not keep this because it's way too slow. But being able to play Find the Way on 2 makes it a lot better. And then having him means that we can have a play on 3, even though we have a depleted power. Looks like we're playing against Armory. Yeah, I don't know about that. Well, I'd rather play Titan. So let's get a Fire Sigil while we can. And when I say rather play Titan, I want the option of playing Titan on 4. So if we draw power, we can play Titan. We are drawing nothing but harsh rules tonight, which, sometimes feels pretty good. Right now, not so much. Let's just play Seraph. Oh, I could not think of a worse matchup to draw 3 harsh rules in. Ugh. Okay. Kind of want to draw cards, but I think we're just going to play Titan. It's the best thing we can do. And, if our opponent wants to harsh rule, then I guess we can try to keep attacking the board, but, it's going to be tough. This is interesting, though. If our opponent wants to attack here, then we will play harsh rule. Oh, they don't. Oh, well, that would have been good. So what do I think? They probably got Tavrod. So we need to draw and look for mana. Also could rise to the challenge for mana. Nah, I don't think I like that. But I'm just going to assume our opponent got a Tavrod. Okay. Sure. Now we get to go looking for the rest of our influence, which is good. Okay, if our opponent starts playing more units, then the harsh rules will be pretty good, obviously. But it looks like they got a rune hammer, which is not terrible for us, just because we do have a decent amount of chump blockers. Six, huh? So there's no point playing Titan because Titan will just get destroyed by that rune hammer. One thing we could do is go for Vanquish on the Throne Warden, and then next turn play a Harsh Rule. It's not terrible. Yeah, I think I like that. I think we do this, set up for the Harsh Rule, then let's play a Rise to the Challenge. I think, well, let's see. If we get a Shatterglass Mage, we could chump block, Shatterglass Mage that, and then play a Harsh Rule. If we get Icaria, yeah, we're pretty far away from Icaria. I'm going to get a Mage. And look to interact with the weapons a little bit. Reality Warden would also be not that bad. Yeah, gross. So our opponent has 3 cudgels. Diogo. Ugh, God. Let's just get rid of that. And then if she gets a chance to block, we can trade. That seems unlikely. Oh, wow. It's a lot of cudgels. Well, this Harsh Rule is not going to be the end of the world. It's not going to be great. No, we're just going to chump block. Ow. Not great. We're going to be at 1. Well, that's that. Could have used the torch. Yep. Not going to have a winning record this video. Oh well. Sometimes it's like that. We're just, well, for one, we're playing against good opponents. We've played mostly against Masters players, and I've had a couple of sloppy plays myself, because I don't know if you can hear it, but I've been like coughing and sneezing, so I'm a little under the weather. And we also are drawing really heavy on anti-aggro. Like, that's, I think, the 3rd game where we've drawn more, 2 harsh rules at least. And we're playing against decks where that's not exactly what we want to be doing. Sometimes like you'll be on the ladder and you draw lots of Titans and lots of Heart of the Vaults, and you're playing against control decks, and you're playing against aggro decks, and you want like sweepers. But tonight we're mostly hitting the wrong part of our deck. But that's okay. We're learning. It's not as fun as just all outright winning, but it's not as bad as not playing games. So let's go ahead and get a Combray Sigil. This draw is pretty decent. Hopefully we can go out on a win here and not end up at 3 and 7, which would be pretty brutal. Sure. Let's draw that. Statuary Maiden is also very good against this deck. You could see that really made a difference in that match, having the Throne Wardens go up in stats. Ooh, looks like we get to have Revenge on Armory. I'm okay with that. I don't mind not playing the healer this turn because, I mean, we don't really gain a whole lot from another 2/5 and gaining 3 life, but having our banner come into play not depleted is a thing. So that way we can have an easy path to 5 mana. Sure. Let's get a fire. This gives us perfect influence to play everything except for Icaria. What would be a good draw here? Titan would be a good draw. Martial Ironthorn's a good draw. Heart's a good draw. Seraph, I guess, is good. Not a harsh rule, though. Sigil is not great. Sure, that seems like be an unnecessary torch. I mean, you're definitely winning this race at this point, but I'll take it. There we go. That's pretty good. We're going to hold off a turn so we can play Titan and keep up stand together. Our opponent didn't play any weapons last turn. So is it correct to play Shatterglass Mage? Probably not. Titan can be very good in this match though, because it's 6 health makes it not easy to kill with relic weapons or some combination with torch. They have to have a removal spell, and ooh, that's actually very good. That's a very good draw. But we're gonna do this first. Got to really make the right choice with this though. Looks like our opponent's missing some mana. They're still stuck on 4 and we're at 7. Second removal spell? Looks like it. Oh well. Maybe we'll just draw Icaria. Also a possibility. Well, I guess I don't really want to get an Amber Acolyte. That just feels really weak when we can do something like get a heart. But our opponent's stuck on mana. This comes down as a 4/1, and then we get to play Icaria next turn, so can't really argue with any of those things. Yeah, our opponent's definitely having some mana issues. God, I hope that's not the only way we beat this deck, is our opponent having bad draws. This is a good deck. I mean, you're going to be on the ladder. You really want to be prepared for this armory deck with the Minotaurs. Tavrod is so good. Yeah, we're just going to A-space here. Want to end this game quickly before our opponent gets a chance to play some of their value units and start drawing cards. And we're down to 1 card in hand, so we really need to end this game. It looks like a harsh roll might be coming. Oh, maybe not if our opponent doesn't chump block. Yeah, so far that stand together has been pretty clutch. Shatterglass Mage, though, is still going to do some work eventually. That's a good one. I think we'll just play the Mage. They have to have an answer for at least 2 of our units to not die. Well, that's one of them. Okie dokie. That was worth it. I never like having Mystic Ascendant by itself on the board in this situation because it's just like, it just feels so likely that it's going to die. But maybe we get to go out on a win, finally. After a pretty decent losing streak, I have to say. It can't be that complicated of a decision for our opponent. Any chump blocker with more than 3 health will do it. They clearly don't have a removal spell. Not even a harsh rule. Maybe they have a Tavrod, which we would just attack through. Does Mystic Ascendant get the job done? Yes, it does. Okay. Going out on 40%. Okie dokie. Well, let's do a quick closing deck tech since this video has gone very long. And, 2 of these games were against Chalice, which is never very interesting. So let's talk about the deck a little bit. First of all, Harsh Rule, I would say, had a tough time for sure. We drew a lot of Harsh Rule, and it was always okay. It wasn't great. So going forward, Harsh Rule might not be great in this meta, which means this deck's going to have a tough time in general, so I might not keep playing it. Mystic was good in that last game, and in general, Icaria was great as always. Heart of the Vault was great, so the finishers were all really strong. But the main problem with this deck was the fact that we drew. I mean, the main problem with this run of games was really, honestly, it was Harsh Rule. It's kind of strange. This card usually really good, but the reason we know this card is not good in the meta is because we drew it. I think we drew it almost every game. And in some games, we drew like 3. Like, imagine if those games where we drew 3 Harsh Rules, we drew 3 Heart of the Vaults, or 3 Sandstorm Titans, or 3 Seraphs, or something like that. We could have had a lot more play to those games and a lot more opportunity to find winning lines. Harsh Rule is so narrow in what it does. Even though it's super powerful, it does really only one thing. And that one thing, sweep the board, was not good because we came against decks that had a lot of ways to recover from Harsh Rule, to draw a lot of cards, to get extra value. So I think that was the main issue with this series of games. If it was a meta where we played against a lot of mid-range decks like Elysian or other Praxis, or even Rakano to a certain extent, it would have been great if we played against like super swarmy decks, like a couple more queens. We only played queen like once or twice. Harsh Rule, drawing those multiple Harsh Rules would have been good. But the meta is really powerful value plays right now, mainly because Argentport has become such a strong value deck, with Tavrod being able to not only close the door damage-wise, being 5 attack, but also defensively because it's so hard to kill because he has 7 health, and then also in the grindy game because he can draw cards every time he attacks. So that being said, Tavrod might be the new best 5-cost thing to do in the game, and Harsh Rule is just a little too narrow right now to really rely on the way this deck does in a lot of ways. That said, though, I still like the idea behind the deck. I mean, I think, the games where you get to have Torch and Desert Marshal early on are just so powerful, and having access to Heart of the Vault and Ikaria as finishers are really good. But going forward, this deck might not be great in the meta. So we're stuck at Diamond 2 for now. Hopefully we'll do a little more grinding, and I'd like to hit Master during one of these videos, but we will see how the ladder treats us. In the meantime, enjoy this video. Please comment below what you thought about it. Please comment about the deck, and please make any comments about what kind of decks you'd like to see played. I'm open to anything. This is, after all, for you guys, so let me know what you think. Please be sure to check out Numot Gaming for all your Eternal content, as well as Magic the Gathering content and a few other games. A lot of big stuff going on at Numot. So if you're a gamer, if you're really into turn-based strategy, card games, especially digital, Numot's a great place to go. And be sure to follow me at Keith Watabayashi at Twitter and see what latest thoughts are popping into my head. But thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I will see you next time. From Numot Gaming, this is Keith the Trastero Watabayashi saying 4 and 6 isn't embarrassing, but it's not what we're going for. So hopefully we do better next week. See you next time.